Hello, everyone, and welcome. Today, we are going to learn about a very brave young woman. Her name is Malala Yousafzai. This story is for Level 1 learners, so I will use simple words and short sentences. Listen carefully. This story can teach you a lot about courage. Malala's father, Ziauddin, was a teacher. He loved education very much. He believed that boys and girls should have the same chance to learn. He started his own school in their town. This was Malala's home from a very young age. She grew up walking through classrooms, listening to lessons, and watching her father teach. Ziauddin himself had struggled to get an education when he was young. He grew up poor, and for a while, he had a stutter, which means he had trouble speaking smoothly. Some people made fun of him for this, but he worked hard, practiced speaking, and never let anyone stop him from learning. Because of his own struggles, he understood how important it was for every child, boy or girl, to have the chance he almost did not get. In many parts of the world, some people believe girls should not go to school. Malala's father did not agree with this idea at all. From the day Malala was born, he treated her like she could do anything a boy could do. He gave her the freedom to dream big dreams. He often told her, "You are free like a bird, Malala. You can fly as high as you want." Malala loved school. She loved books. She loved learning new things every single day. She often said school felt like her favorite place in the whole world. She studied hard, and she was one of the best students in her class. As a young girl, Malala was already known for having strong opinions and a confident voice. She enjoyed speaking in front of her classmates. She liked debating with older students, even though she was often the youngest person in the room. Her friends remember her as someone who loved to ask questions, always wanting to know more, always curious about the world beyond her small valley. She dreamed, at different times, of becoming a doctor, and later, of becoming a politician who could help her country in a bigger way. But when Malala was about 10 years old, everything in her valley began to change. A group called the Taliban took control of the area. The Taliban had many strict rules. One of their rules was very clear. Girls were not allowed to go to school anymore. At first, the changes were small. Music was banned. Certain types of clothing were banned. Then, slowly, the rules became stricter and more frightening. Men with guns started walking through the streets. They made announcements telling people what they could and could not do. Many families in the valley became afraid to leave their homes. This rule broke Malala's heart. She could not understand why she should stop learning simply because she was a girl. Many schools for girls were closed. Some schools were even destroyed, burned down in the middle of the night. Malala and her friends were scared, but they still wanted to learn. For a while, Malala and some other girls kept going to a secret class, hiding their books under their shawls so nobody on the street would know they were students. At only 11 years old, Malala started writing a diary. She did not use her real name at first. She used a secret name to stay safe. In her diary, she wrote about what daily life was like under the Taliban's rules. She wrote about her fear. She wrote about her hope. She wrote about how much she missed going to school like a normal girl. She wrote one entry describing a dream where soldiers came to stop her from walking to school. A dream that felt, at the time, frighteningly close to becoming real. A journalist helped share Malala's diary with people outside her valley. People all over the world began to read her words. They read about a brave young girl who wanted nothing more than an education. Soon, newspapers and television stations wanted to talk to Malala directly. Around the same time, a filmmaker came to the Swat Valley to make a short documentary about girls trying to continue their education despite the danger. Malala appeared in this documentary too, still hiding her identity carefully. But slowly, piece by piece, people started to recognize her voice, her ideas, and eventually, her face. Malala was not afraid to use her real name and her real face after that. She started giving interviews. She spoke about girls' right to go to school. She spoke clearly and bravely, even though she was still just a child. People were amazed by how strong and smart she sounded. The Taliban did not like what Malala was saying. They saw her as a danger to their rules. They did not want a young girl telling the whole world that their rules were wrong. Malala's father worried about her safety, but he never once asked her to stop speaking. He told her that if she believed in something so strongly, silence would hurt her more than any danger outside their door. Malala herself later said she was not entirely sure the Taliban would truly harm a child, believing, in some quiet part of her heart, that her age might protect her. She was wrong about that, but her courage never wavered, even as threats against her family became more frequent and more direct. On October 9, 2012, something terrible happened. Malala was riding home from school on a bus, just like any other day. She had just finished a test and was talking and laughing with her friends. A man stopped the bus. He asked, "Who is Malala?" Nobody answered at first. Then he looked directly at her and shot her. Malala was only 15 years old. The bullet hit her head and neck. Her condition was extremely serious. Doctors in Pakistan worked hard to save her life. Then, because her injuries were so severe, she was flown to a hospital in England for more treatment. Her family could not travel with her right away, and for several agonizing days, Malala was alone in a foreign country, unconscious, while doctors fought to keep her alive. People all over the world were shocked and angry. How could someone hurt a child simply for wanting to learn? Newspapers everywhere shared her story. Millions of people prayed for her recovery. Leaders from many countries spoke out, saying what happened to Malala was completely wrong. Students in Pakistan and in other countries held vigils, standing together quietly with candles, hoping for good news. Slowly, Malala began to get better. It took many months. She had several surgeries, including one to fix the bones in her skull and another to help repair the nerves in her face. She had to learn to walk and talk normally again. It was a long, difficult road, filled with physical therapy and quiet private struggle far from the cameras. But Malala did not give up. Just like she never gave up on school, she never gave up on getting well. While Malala was recovering in the hospital, thousands of letters and cards arrived for her from children all over the world. Some children sent drawings. Some sent their own small notebooks as gifts, since notebooks had always meant so much to Malala. Her family later said these letters gave her strength during the hardest weeks, reminding her that she was not fighting alone, even though she was so far from her home in the Swat Valley. Once she was strong enough to leave the hospital, Malala and her family made a difficult decision. It was too dangerous for them to return home to Pakistan right away. They settled instead in Birmingham, England, starting a new, unfamiliar life while Malala continued her recovery and, remarkably, returned to school within just a few months of the attack, determined not to fall behind in her studies. When Malala was strong enough, she did something amazing. She did not hide. She did not stop speaking about education. Instead, she became even more determined to help girls everywhere go to school. In 2013, less than 1 year after she was shot, Malala stood in front of the United Nations, an important meeting of leaders from countries all over the world. It was her 16th birthday. She wore a pink shawl that had belonged to a Pakistani leader who was killed for speaking out for justice. A small, quiet tribute she chose carefully before walking onto the stage. Her hands were shaking, but her voice was steady. She gave a powerful speech. She said the Taliban thought a bullet would silence her, but instead, her voice grew louder. She said, "One child, one teacher, one book, and one pen can change the world." Her words traveled around the globe. People everywhere remembered them. That day became known informally as Malala Day in many news reports around the world. Malala did not stop there. She and her father created an organization called the Malala Fund. This organization works to help girls all over the world get a good education. They build schools. They support girls who cannot afford to study. They speak to governments about the importance of education for every child. Today, the Malala Fund works in several different countries, including Pakistan, Nigeria, Afghanistan, and Brazil, supporting local teachers and local leaders who understand their own communities best. In 2014, when Malala was just 17 years old, she received one of the biggest honors in the world. She won the Nobel Peace Prize. She was the youngest person to ever win this famous prize. She shared the award with a man from India named Kailash Satyarthi, who also worked hard to protect children's rights. Malala gave another speech when she received this special prize. She said the prize was not just for her. She said it was for every girl and every boy who wants to go to school but cannot. She said it was for children whose voices are not heard. She invited children from many different countries to attend the ceremony with her, wanting the moment to belong to all of them, not only to herself. After finishing high school in England, Malala continued her own education too. She studied at Oxford University, one of the most famous universities in the world. Some classmates said she was quiet and studious, more interested in discussing books than talking about her own fame. She graduated with a degree in philosophy, politics, and economics. She proved, once again, that nothing could stop her from learning. In 2021, Malala married a man named Asir Malik, who worked in cricket management. She has continued balancing her personal life with her public work, something she has said is not always easy, but something she considers worth the effort, because the mission she believes in is far bigger than herself. Today, Malala continues her important work. She travels to many countries. She meets with world leaders. She talks with girls who dream of going to school, just like she once did. She reminds everyone that education is not just a privilege for some children. She believes it is a right that belongs to every child, everywhere in the world. In recent years, she has spoken often and urgently about girls in Afghanistan, who once again lost the right to attend school after the Taliban returned to power there in 2021, showing that the fight she began as a child is sadly still not finished. Malala Yousafzai's story teaches us many powerful lessons. First, courage does not depend on age. Even a very young person can stand up for something important. Second, one person's voice, even a quiet diary written by a scared 11-year-old girl, can eventually reach and inspire millions of people. Third, facing something terrible does not have to end your dream. Sometimes it can make your dream even stronger. Fourth, education truly can change the world, one child at a time, exactly as Malala always believed. Fifth, even after a great victory, like winning the Nobel Peace Prize, the work is often not finished, and real change usually requires continuing to show up, year after year, long after the world has stopped watching closely. Now it's time to learn vocabulary from today's story. Valley means low land between mountains or hills. Example, she grew up in the Swat Valley. Education means the process of learning, usually at school. Example, her father believed strongly in education. Strict means having very firm rules that must be followed. Example, the Taliban had many strict rules. Diary means a book where someone writes about their daily life and feelings. Example, she started writing a diary at age 11. Journalist means a person who writes news stories for newspapers or television. Example, a journalist helped share her diary. Injury means damage or harm done to a person's body. Example, her injuries were extremely serious. Surgery means a medical operation performed by doctors. Example, she had several surgeries. Determined means having a strong decision to do something and not stopping. Example, she became even more determined after the attack. Ceremony means a formal event held to celebrate or honor something. Example, she invited children to attend the ceremony with her. Tribute means something done to show respect for a person or idea. Example, wearing the shawl was a quiet tribute. Studious means spending a lot of time studying and learning. Example, her classmates remembered her as quiet and studious. Organization means a group of people working together for a shared goal. Example, she created the Malala Fund organization. Privilege means a special benefit or advantage, not something everyone has. Example, education should not be only a privilege. Try to use these words in your own sentences. This will help you remember them. Now let's practice speaking together. Repeat after me. Speak slowly and clearly. Malala loved school more than anything. Her father believed girls could learn just like boys. The Taliban said girls could not go to school. She wrote about her fear in a secret diary. Her voice was heard around the world. She was shot for wanting an education. She did not stop fighting for her dream. She learned to walk and talk again. She spoke at the United Nations. She won the Nobel Peace Prize. She studied at a famous university. She still fights for every child's right to learn. Practice these sentences 2 or 3 times. This will help your speaking and your confidence. Thank you so much for listening to this story today. I hope you enjoyed it and learned some new English words too. Now, I have a few simple questions for you. What part of Malala's story touched you the most? Do you think you would have the courage to keep speaking after something so scary happened to you? What is one thing you could do today to support education for children around you? Please write your answers in the comments below. I would love to read them. If you liked this story, please like the video, share it with a friend, and subscribe for more easy English stories. Take care, keep learning, and see you next time.